28-year-old mother in Alabama is denying that she killed her 15-month-old son, who died 2 years ago after sustaining brutal trauma to the head. Jordan Ellen Harmon, who displayed an ear-to-ear smile when posing for her mugshot following her 2021 arrest, formally pleaded not guilty to 1 count each of murder, aggravated child abuse, and chemical endangerment of a child in the April 2021 slaying of her 15-month-old son, Emery Michael Knox Wilson. Travis Sebastian Coleman, 30 years of age, who was Jordan Harmon's boyfriend at the time of Emery's death, is facing the same charges, as well as an additional count of aggravated child abuse. Deputies on April 11, 2021 responded to an incident at the intersection of Highway 24 and Country Road 214. Upon arriving at the scene, first responders found a person performing CPR on a toddler on the floorboard of a minivan. An ambulance was dispatched to the scene and the toddler was transported to Decatur-Morgan Hospital. Due to the severity of the child's injuries, he was later transported to Children's of Alabama Hospital in Birmingham for more specialized treatment. On April the 12th, 2021, a then 26-year-old Jordan Ellen Harmon, the mother, was arrested and charged with 1 count of aggravated child abuse. She was booked into jail on a $60,000 bond. Unfortunately, 1 day after his mother was taken into custody, 15-month-old Emery was tragically pronounced dead. After about 5 months in detention, the mother, Jordan Ellen Harmon, was released after posting a bond of $60,000. It wasn't until the autopsy report came back in January 2022 with critical information about the case, including the cause of death and the extent of injuries sustained by the toddler, at which point the mother and the mother's boyfriend were both brought back in for questioning. The report showed that the toddler died from blunt force trauma to the head. The autopsy further showed that the toddler had abrasions, contusions, and lacerations to the scalp, a depressed skull fracture, a fractured left forearm. Additionally, toxicology tests revealed the presence of cannabinoids in the baby's system. So presumably the mother and the mother's boyfriend were smoking cannabis, grass weed, in the presence of 15-month-old Emery Michael Knox. Following the report, the mother's boyfriend, Travis Sebastian Coleman, was arrested and booked into jail. The mother, on January the 26th, 2022, was interviewed concerning the conclusions from Emery's autopsy reports. Based on her responses, she was taken into custody for a second time and charged with the abuse and death of her son. Court documents accused the couple of shaking, hitting, striking, or otherwise inflicting serious injury to Emery on more than one occasion. They also reportedly say the mother and the mother's boyfriend did torture, willfully abuse, cruelly beat, or otherwise willfully maltreat the toddler. Additionally, the mother was charged with refusing to seek medical attention for a child having sustained serious injuries that required medical attention and treatment, including but not excluding injuries to his head, arm, and groin area on at least 3 separate occasions. Both suspects are currently in jail on similar bonds of $1.6 million each. So I am going to applaud Alabama, the state of Alabama, the authorities concerned, that have given very high bonds for each of these scumbags. $1.6 million, actually $1.6 and $80,000. A very large amount, I would presume unachievable for the suspects to be able to pay a required percentage, perhaps 10%, 20% of the bond to be able to be released from prison. So I applaud them in that, and I hope the investigation continues. It seems that the medical examiner's report, the autopsy report, has a litany of evidence. It seems that there's plenty of evidence concerning a multitude of different injuries that Emery suffered during his short life. There can only be 2 suspects, those that are in ongoing contact with Emery, the mother and the mother's boyfriend. According to my interpretation of the charges that are listed in this article that I've gone through, which is a lawandcrime.com article, it seems that both the mother and the mother's boyfriend were aggressors. They're both seemingly, allegedly guilty of beating and harming Emery. Perhaps the mother's boyfriend was more of an aggressor than the mother, but regardless, seemingly the mother partook in the abuse to some extent, and absolutely certainly, again, in my opinion, based on this one article, the mother certainly is guilty of having enabled this entire situation, not intervening, failing to call for the arrest of the mother's boyfriend, for the arrest of the torture. She failed to do that. She failed to seek adequate medical attention for her baby boy. She is an absolute scumbag scumbag should these allegations be true. He is also an absolute scumbag. The pair of them evil, rotten to the core, and I'm glad that they've been caught. And that's really the only blessing here. So the mother is pleading not guilty to her involvement of the murder and child abuse of her own son, Emery Michael Knox. The article that I've gone through hasn't informed us as to whether or not the mother's boyfriend is pleading guilty or not guilty. I'm confident that the investigators have plenty of evidence to convict. That's my take on it. Some level of speculation there, but I do hope that is the case. I don't think there's too much more to say. I normally say full condolences to the family and friends of the victims. It's a little bit hard to say that in this case, seeing as the primary caregivers are those that seemingly acted in unison to take the life of a 15-month-old baby boy. But I presume there are extended family that is shattered by the death of Emery. So condolences to the extended family, but maybe not. Maybe nobody cared for Emery. Maybe he was just a lost soul, born into abuse, any chance of life stamped out, given no true happiness or joy. Poor little thing. Died from blunt force trauma to the head. He had abrasions, contusions, and lacerations to the scalp, a depressed skull fracture, a fractured left forearm, tortured, abused, beaten to death. It's sickening. I hope these two scumbags get the death penalty if that's an option, which I don't think it is. I could be wrong. I've not double checked. But this happened in Alabama. I'm not sure if Alabama has the death penalty, or even if it does, if it utilizes the death penalty. So I hope that they get very, very long, really life sentences. And I hope that their fellow inmates and the guards concerned are able to enact their version of justice. Nothing's going to bring back Emery. Nothing's going to allow Emery to avoid the treatment that he faced throughout his short life. Nothing is going to give Emery any sense of fairness, any fairness, any justice. I guess perhaps that's what evil is, when you just take that away from somebody entirely. How can you get more evil than that? So I hope the other inmates are able to do what they can to serve some justice. Not going to spell out what I mean, because I've got to be careful with the words that are said, but I'm sure you understand and likely agree. I'm going to wrap things up at this point. Thank you very much for listening. I'm going to continue to work on the channel. Please do stick around, like, comment, subscribe. Take care.